Hello, I'm so excited to have R.S. Eisenhower with us today, and he is the author of the book Pursuing Intelligence, Real and Artificial. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yes, this book identifies three intelligence functions that can be found in cultural, historical, and contemporary examples, which also includes artificial intelligence itself. When these functions are neglected or poorly utilized, intelligence proficiency suffers. From this study, there's more to intelligence than simply having the ability to apply what is known, as conventional definitions of intelligence suggest. For this reason, I believe that collectively there's considerable untapped potential for intellectual performance in humans and in devices made or AI devices that we construct. This book is aimed at unleashing that potential. It is this functional awareness that enables the exciting opportunity to not only train AI devices, but also to train humans in those functions to improve intelligence proficiency. To that end, I have crafted thought experiments and leveraged familiar experiences to make complex theoretical ideas accessible for general use. For example, consider that I have experience with only friendly dogs. I train an AI device with those same experiences. Now, someone asks me if they can approach a dog that they encounter. I encourage them to greet the dog without hesitation. Since I'm a human, they don't exactly trust my word, so they consult an AI, which supports my advice, given that it had the same experience base I did. Since there's a tendency to gullibly accept AI as an authority, the person proceeds to greet the dog that happens to view all humans as cruel and threatening. Clearly, this doesn't go well. During the pandemic, according to MIT Technology Review, an AI device was used to scan a large number of patients to learn the distinctions between those infected with COVID-19 or not. In use, the device reported that the new scans of patients who were lying down had COVID-19 and those standing did not. In these examples, what was known was applied, which we would call intelligence conventionally. Yet it is clear the interpretations were incomplete and the subsequent responses were not pertinent. Perhaps one could even argue the results were not even intelligent at all. This example reveals how a cognitive science concept that indicates a common and highly relatable intellectual flaw can be explained. This is the effort I made in the book to make information accessible from common experiences, not so far out theoretically, not so far out mathematically, to make it possible for people to access this information and function more intelligently. My hope that this book will enable high level perspectives that expands the understanding of intelligence and that can improve the general human function and help us meet a growing need to prudently contend with artificial intelligence.
Wow, this is so interesting. What was your inspiration for writing the book?
Well, as an inventor, I was curious why my thinking approach was so different than so many others. So that kind of spawned like there are frustrations and things that happened with that made me wonder. So my engineering training conditioned me to look for root causes through testing and refinement of hypotheses with experiential data. I turned this training onto the topic of intelligence. Initially, I noted this thinking style was different from those that memorized and responded with conventional or trained answers. Those persons do not question the authority of their thinking and often take offense if there's any challenge to it. This conflict of styles frustrated Albert Einstein and tormented Galileo, who challenged convention. And this has reared its head throughout our history, which I do some degree of chronicling in the book as well to explain where these come from. Ideally, we should not impede progress by foolishly clinging to what proves to be outdated thinking. So those were the things. So I had frustrations as an inventor trying to get new ideas sold and learning to cultivate the ability to communicate to people that didn't quite grasp the full level of understanding I had was something that I tried to leverage in this book to make things even more accessible.
RS, is there anything else that you want to tell us about your book or the message behind your book or about yourself?
I think really what I hope to do is to help people. And if one of the areas I get into, I have a whole chapter dedicated to preparation at the very beginning to basically get us more on the same page. Because if we jump into something with a lot of jargon and trying to prove they're smarter than somebody else or whatever. That's not important. Communication is what's important. So I even get into details of describing what a first order differential equation is when you don't even have to know that word, but you know how it works. And so things like that, I try to get the people so they can be in a place where they may already know it, they may not, but if they do, I want it to be something that's comfortable and free for them to just walk into and build on. That's my hope.
That's awesome. Yes, I believe I believe that too, that communication is super important.
Yeah, I was just going to say to dovetail with your point there. When I started writing this book, I realized that interpretation function is so critical to almost all intelligent action. So if we misunderstand a question on a test, we'll probably get it wrong. So that kind of attention to how we interpret things and making sure we get enough on the same page that we can share it. So one example I use is a doctor trying to explain a medication to a colleague. He can use a fancy name for another I don't know, another drug that does something similar, and that doctor colleague understands pretty well what's going on. You try to explain that to a child, you talk like that, there's no communication. So that is something that as I wrote it, I began to kind of turn back on myself and rewrite the book, because how you interpret is so vital.
Yes, that is exactly true. If anyone is interested in picking up a copy of R.S. Eisenhower's book, it is titled Pursuing Intelligence, Real and Artificial, and you can pick it up on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Apple Books, just to name a few. Thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you so much for sharing about your book.
Okay, thank you so much.